Africa is seen by many as a minefield waiting to be explored. Although opportunities are there and are vast, in many cases investors have to think twice before embarking on business ventures on the continent. Investors cite tax and other related business regulation issues as major despite the continent's need for investment. Keith Boyd is the Managing Director of Venture Communications, and he's learned a few lessons in doing business on the continent. We welcome him on our program. Keith, thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Pleasure.
They say that doing business on the continent is not for sissies. It's not that hard, is it, surely?
At times not,
yeah.
But at times it is, you know. And I think the main issues is logistics are one of the challenges that can frustrate your best efforts at many times. So I think tenacity is definitely a core value that you've got to aspire to.
Tell us a little bit about some of the mistakes that potential business investors and people who want to do business in the continent, the mistakes that they've made in going into countries that you've learned.
I think the first one is traditionally or historically, there's been perhaps a get-rich-quick view, and that just is no longer valid in my opinion. And that sees people trying to go into a country, make some money on a particular project and then go home again. I think that the characteristics of that is that they don't go and get their work permits, they don't register with the tax authorities and so on, and you're going to come unstuck. You know, the governments certainly, the regulators and so on in each of the countries are getting a lot tighter on those matters, as they should. So I think a lot of the new players, that is a common mistake they make.
How difficult is it to do your homework even before you arrive in the country? I mean, is it easy to get hold of the resources and the information that you need so that when you're there, you're literally up and running?
Well, I think our view has been to take equity partners in each of the countries. I mean, you just cannot, in the space of 3 years, you know, live a life. And, you know, we need people who've lived in those countries, who understand cultural issues, who understand political issues, who understand business issues in that country. And that certainly short-circuits it for us. I think the key is choosing the right partners in each of those countries.
How do you do that, given that you don't know the country and
Yes.
everybody makes themselves out to be the ideal person?
Absolutely. I think there's a bit of a network, you know, that has built up over the years. We do like to make sure that we get introduced to people by the people we already trust, and I think that kind of grows the circle a lot. And you have to rely on your intuition and just take your time about it. Don't rush into an equity partnership that you could regret later.
People talk about the legal framework, the infrastructure, phone links, all sorts of challenges. Are they there, and are you able to overcome them in your view?
Well, telephone infrastructure in the GSM type world is fantastic in a lot of parts of the continent. It really is remarkably good. I think the roads, the railways, the ports, the logistics handling issues, they're challenging at the moment, but we see improvements, you know. We're seeing rehabilitation of rail links now in East Africa, and I think that's an area that governments will continue to spend money on because it does cut your cost of delivery. It cuts the time that a project takes, and it will generally, keep development prices down if you can get those infrastructure issues right.
Are you finding that the continent is quite welcoming in terms of allowing foreign business people to come into countries, particularly with local equity partners?
Yes, generally yes. I think that I'm heartened by the fact that wherever we've gone, we have felt welcome within it. But it's not without its setbacks. I think that when you go in as a South African head office company, there is perhaps in some countries a little bit of suspicion. Why are you here? How long are you going to be here? Are you an investor, or are you here to really just take money out in the short term? And one can understand that view. So you have to keep reaffirming that and living by that affirmation that you are an investor and you're there for the long term.
Some time ago, the president of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, said that one of the biggest problems that we're facing on the continent is that of corruption, and that we could be losing as much as 20% of the continent's wealth through that. Have you had to deal with the whole issue of the brown envelope?
Absolutely, is the straight answer. But it is really not a road that we advise anybody to take. In a nutshell, I think that it is a hangover from the fact that there have been a lot of short-term people who have gone into a country and they've tried to make quick money. They haven't taken the time to establish the depth and breadth of relationships and local knowledge that they need. So it has encouraged a very short-term mentality. So, you know, the capitalists and the people who've gone to these countries have been very much a part of this whole problem. I think in the long term, if you decide you're going to go down that road and you're going to use those types of practices, you're going to get caught out in the long term if you're there for the long term. So you have to avoid it and just realize there's some people you're not going to be able to do business with, but there are a lot of fantastic people that we can do long-term business with.
Keith, I guess the final word really is that business can be done on the continent. Just do your homework and prepare yourself properly.
Absolutely right. It's not going to be easy or short.
And there's no short term.
Yeah.
Keith, thank you so much for joining us on the program and giving us an update on that. Interesting. So there you have, basically. You can do business on the continent. That was Keith Boyd from Venture Communications.